Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk Wilkinson, your blue-collar sage, calming outrage and helping to navigate a world divided by fog and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance. Each week, I'm sharing stories from my path and using the power of conversation and collaboration with my many great guests. Together, we chart a course toward understanding, bridging divides, and fostering a community where wisdom prevails over discord. Friends, it really is about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We did not create the hate, but together we can derate the hate. The only good thing about a bad attitude is we have the ability as individuals to change it. For me, it starts with gratitude and personal accountability. I am so incredibly grateful that you have taken the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Please remember to subscribe and share the DTH podcast with your network of friends. If you would like to support the show, check out the Support Us page on the D-Rate the Hate website. With that, my friends, let's get to it. Friends, this week we're following one of our common themes, but approaching it from a different angle. The theme is bridging gaps through communication, but this time we're discussing the generational gap that many parents and their children struggle with. Today, I am joined by a true expert in the field of parent-teen communication, Marcus Higgs. Marcus is a communications coach with a mission to help parents of preteens bridge the ever-widening generational gap. He's someone who believes in the power of showing up, doing the hard work, and connecting with your child before it's too late. With a rich multicultural background, born to a Filipino mother and a Bahamian father, Marcus has spent over 15 years working across continents from East Asia to South America. He's here to share his incredible insights on how to navigate the challenges of the tween years, and let me tell you, he brings a wealth of knowledge on how to communicate effectively across both generational and cultural divides. In today's conversation, we're going to dig deep into what it takes to maintain those all-important connections with your preteen. We'll explore how self-identity, virtues, and values can be the building blocks of a strong relationship. We'll also talk about the role of social media and how you can guide your teen through the murky waters of that ugly internet ecosystem. Marcus is going to break down some powerful frameworks for communication that will help you accept, build upon, and challenge perspectives with curiosity. We'll discuss the importance of emotional intelligence, creating space for others to express themselves, and how expectations and unconscious biases can shape our interactions. So get ready to be inspired, my friends, challenged, and maybe even a little uncomfortable, because that's where the magic happens. Whether you're a parent, a mentor, or just someone striving to connect better with those around you, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. And with that, my friends, here we go. Marcus Higgs, thank you for joining me on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, man. I do appreciate your time today.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to meet you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I am so much looking forward to this conversation, Marcus. When I heard about you and the fact that you're this communications coach for the parents of preteens and you're working on bridging the gap, bridging the divide between parents and teens and preteens and how that chasm has developed in the communication, how things get muddled up when parents are trying to talk to their teens because they don't truly understand who their teens are. You know, they may not even speak the same language in a certain sense, right? Because of that generational gap. I thought right away, this blends so well with so much of the work that I do. I talk a lot about bridging divides, but I don't talk enough about, and I don't think enough people talk about, that generational gap and what the problem is and how that problem has manifested itself between parents the parents of teens, the parents of preteens. So Marcus, thank you so much for bringing this to me, because I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. The DTH listeners need to hear it, and being somebody who works so much in the world of divides and bridging divides, like I do with the organization Braver Angels, I think this is something that needs to be talked about as well. Marcus, tell me a little bit about this divide between parents and their preteens or their teens.
Hearing you say that and how you set it up, it reminded me of something from Dr. Dan Siegel, and I'll share it in a moment. Here it is right now. I'll tell you what I'm doing, and then I'll share that. But life, mitosis, happens by separating and then integrating. That's how you were born as a cell, and then that's how you split, and then you learned how to work together. So there has to be division, but then it's integration after division.
Nice.
And I think that will set the context for this whole conversation. What happens in human development, because that's what I study, I studied communications in high school, in university, journalism, went off to be a missionary. My worldview expanded and still have a sincere connection with the divine, but I taught in South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Spain, and now I'm back in the Bahamas with my aging parents. So that's just a background of what I do. So I have a lot of perspective, and that informs the work that I do. Mm-hmm. Now, I've noticed an intersection, a commonality of being human. It's you grow up dependent, and then you have to reach independence, and that's where that first breaking happens. Mm-hmm. Identity breaking, I call it. But that's not the final form, like Pokemon. That's not the final form. It's for integration. And that means I promise to take care of me to be in service to you, if you promise to take care of you to be in service to me. And I think that's where our work crosses over, because if you can hold dignity and respect for the person across the way, in as much that you deserve, in as much as you're living in your integrity for the well-being of another person, mm-hmm. you can see differing views. And we might have different values. Values meaning what's important to us. But if what is important to us is the well-being of another person, if that's where we can find common ground, then I think we'll have stronger communities. Yeah.
No, it's an absolutely beautiful idea. Yeah.
I speak in the context of family culture, and the majority of your work speaks in regards to societal culture, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And that reminds me of a lot of conversations I've been having recently, and the thing that keeps on coming up is we can only take care of others when we take care of ourselves first. It's hard to truly love or take care of somebody else when we don't love or take care of ourselves first. So I've heard a number of different analogies, right? I mean, we take the airplane analogy. We put our mask on first so that we can make sure that we take care of other people and we don't become a hindrance to the rest of the plane, right? If we pass out, or we have to fill our cup up to be so that we are full in order to help others. So that intersectionality between what we are doing, the beauty of knowing ourselves and taking care of ourselves in order to take care of those that we love. That is an important concept. So talk to me then about when we are trying to figure out ourselves and fill ourselves up, and then how that translates into how we then move forward to take care of others.
Yeah. Actually, a big part of my work is self-identity. Because at this particular age with preteens, I call it the identity breaking. And the reason I call it that is because everything that eventually grows must first break. How do we mend the broken places is what matters, and the stories we tell there. But you're a person with a little bit of wisdom. I see the gray on your beard. Me too. It's because our understanding of life and our identity happens in the transitions of life. That's why I mentioned it. You've been through a few transitions yourself, right?
Absolutely.
You've been through teenage. Yeah, right. In those breakings, life asks us, who are you? And we answer, I am. If you can do that with this child at this stage, you can, I don't want to say instill, because really what you're doing, the word educate and the word parent means to bring forth. And I want to bring forth an identity that is in there, and not just any identity. It's an identity based on virtues and values. And let me explain that real quick. Virtues are the 24 virtues of virtues in action. This comes from positive psychology. These are with all cultures, all faiths. If you're a human, you have these 24 virtues. And really what they are, if you boil it down, they are ways in which we take care of the collective and we take care of ourselves. Again, things that act in well-being. That's what virtues are. At a deeper level, I believe they are the expression of the divine. That's why I say BYOB, bring your own beliefs. But the greater power is working through us to bind us together. And there are times when our virtues keep us separated. And that's a bit nuanced, but that's where we find the rub of how we grow, because that's what life wants. Life wants us to expand and grow.
Yes.
Then values. Values are what's important to you. Might be your finances, might be your family, might be your faith, but that's uniquely you. And when you know you're working towards a good with what's important to you, and I let you know that's your identity, and I give you evidence and examples of that, you have a stronger identity, and you manage stress better. Life is about stress management.
Yes.
And a lot of the anxiety that we see in the world today is because we don't have an identity and we don't know how to manage stress. It's a longer conversation, but that's what's happening at this initial stage in pre-adolescence as they're entering into adolescence. This human development is old as time, but the newer thing is social media, which we touched on before this.
Sure.
We are the stories we tell ourselves, but when we have all these stories going through our head, it's fracturing our attention and it's telling us new stories and we don't know how to act. That's basically it.
No, that's absolutely right. And I want to unpack that a little bit because how do I want to say this? So much of what, especially children, I instantly think when I think of teens and then I think of this internet ecosystem or social media and the toxicity that is there, and then the comparative nature that hurts so many of our teens, right? Because they begin to compare themselves to everybody else, or they compare themselves to these faux identities that are built up online as so much. I mean, there's so much about this whole concept that's problematic. And, I think about Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, The Coddling of the American Mind. I think about Jeannie Twenge's book, the iGen, and so much of this stuff that teens are dealing with now that I thank goodness, thank God that I did not have to deal with a lot of those things. I dealt with some pretty horrific stuff as a teenager and a preteen, but thankfully my mind did not have to deal with a lot of that ugliness that we see online today. I love that idea of bring forth an identity of virtues and values, and how important that is as a parent to try and mold our children into something that they can become. But the challenge is obviously trying to do that in a world that is full of outside influences that probably stand in contrast to our own virtues and values. Isn't that right, Marcus?
I'll quote Emerson here, who said, "To be who you are in a world that's constantly trying to change you is the greatest accomplishment."
Yes.
If we want to go back to Scripture, Romans 12:2, "Be ye not conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove that which is good, acceptable, and perfect will of God." Now, all of that said, I think it's part of, it's a feature, not a bug. One thing that is for sure, you will be misunderstood. Emerson said, to be great is to be misunderstood. And in that misunderstanding, you have to ask yourself, who am I? Right? There's a point where that who am I is doubt. And it's like, yeah, you got to figure yourself out. Then there's a part of who am I? Oh yeah, this is who I am. And when you can be proud of that because you know you're contributing, you don't concern yourself with the opinions of others.
Yes.
And that's the difference. Like, I honestly do believe, I agree with you. It is difficult and hard to be well adjusted to a perfectly malnutrition, or how does he say? To be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society is no measure of health at all. If we compare ourselves to this society, yeah, it will be hard to push against it. That's why we have to turn it down, and we have to know who we are.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can curate the content of our consciousness, and that is to turn it down. Ideally, for parents, keeping your kids off of social media until 8th grade. That is what is recommended by the book. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But then, even when they're on social media and so on, having those conversations and still being a part of society, still contributing to society, but then learning how to turn it down when you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything in moderation, right? I mean, I don't want my children, if I can keep my kids off social media and as far away from the internet as possible for as long as possible, I will do it. But I know that that's just not a reality in the world that we live in today. But as a parent, we face extraordinary challenges, but every generation faces extraordinary challenges.
Yeah.
And I, one of the reasons that I constantly talk about why I do what I do with trying to mend societal divides and mend divides by, well, whatever the divide happens to be, right? Whether it's a racial divide or a class divide or a, whatever the divide. I mean, there's plenty, right? Rural urban divides. There's so many, unfortunately. But the reason that I do that is to try to provide a better world, a better future for my children. And as parents, kind of going back to the virtues and values thing, being the example, being the change that you want to see in the world, being the person that you want your children to be, things like that. I think that is so incredibly important. So let's talk then a little bit about as you're coaching parents and the parents of teens and preteens, and we talked a little bit about in the pre-show about the idea of different when I talk about the divides that I talk about, whether it be cultural divides or racial divides or class divides, often we find ourselves speaking different languages, and not necessarily different languages as in English, Spanish, Bahamian, Roman, whatever, but different languages in the sense of what we understand and what the person that we're speaking with is going to understand. So much of that divide is then bridged by truly understanding the person that we're speaking with and getting them to understand us, seeing them and being seen, right? When parents are trying to have these conversations with their teens, or how do we go about seeing them? Because even me, you, everybody our age, or I'm certain I'm quite older than you, but everybody that's adult now, right, has at one time been a teenager. It just part of the natural process. But teenagers today are much different than teenagers were when I was a teenager. there's obviously the human nature part of it. I mean, it's there, but there's different circumstances. They speak a different language. They almost seem like a foreign character in my story now. How do they do that, Marcus?
How do they seem like a different character?
No. And I know how they seem like a
what?
different character. How do parents then adapt their? I mean, it may have been same for the greatest generation, the baby boomers, and everything else, right? Because each of us was brought up in a different time. Sure. But when you're trying to explain or coach a parent through somebody, one of the things I go back to is in the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. He makes the comment, or he provides the example of a guy he was talking to, and he says, I just don't understand my kid. He doesn't listen to me, right? And talks about the whole seek first to understand and then to be understood, which is, it's beautiful. I mean, that statement in itself was something that was monumentally changing for me in my communication style. But again, when you're coaching these parents or coaching teens on how to talk to their parents, vice versa, how do you explain the initiation of that seeing and being seen, or seeking to understand and then to be understood?
Yeah. So I can tell you in a very logical way, but that doesn't go over. So you have to tell it in an emotional way. But logically, it's when you understand you have a perspective, that only means a piece of the full picture. And we know as adults with teenagers or kids know everything with no lived experience.
That's right.
We know that, and you want to bite your tongue. However, if your intention is to bridge that divide, that's where you bite your tongue. That's where you hold space for them to express and respect their wisdom. And what I mean by that is they hold a perspective. And if you want to reach them, you have to speak to them based on their perspective. Now, there are 2 different frameworks that come to mind, and that's how I work in communication. You work in frameworks. And frameworks are just models that help us think quicker. And you could take this back to Braver Angels. One is ABC. You accept what the person is saying. That doesn't mean you agree. You accept it. Because it is coming from their lived experience.
Yes.
Their evidence and examples of what they have come to know as a truth. You build upon it, actually. And when you build upon it, you actually make the argument for them. So now you're not facing each other, but rather you're standing side to side and you're like, oh yeah, this is how you see it. And then the C is you challenge it with curiosity.
Beautiful.
And by challenging it with curiosity is you pose a question, because a question lives in the heart of a person. I'm not trying to prove you wrong now. But now, as you sit with that question, not that I want to raise doubt in you, but now that's how critical thinking happens. It happens with a question.
Yes.
And if your idea is a solid idea, it'll stand up to it. But I don't know, just personally, I don't argue with people. I see their point of view. Sure. And if I'm in alignment because I know what I want and my goals are for you to be healthy and well-being, if now let me see how I'm gonna say this. If my goal is for you to be in well-being, and me having this argument does not lead to that, there's no point in me having this argument. I'm not going to convince you. People only change from the inside out. So I will leave a question with you. Or I'll have a healthy conversation and friendly debate with people. The second thing is, always hold people in their dignity. Don't speak down to them.
That's right. That's right. You beautifully answered my question, because this concept is not exclusive to teens and parents, right? It's not exclusive to any two people that are divided on any particular topic or any particular, whether it be social, cultural, age, class divide. I love that ABC method, right? Accept, build, and challenge with curiosity. You know, the curiosity factor. One of the biggest roadblocks to true communication that I've found, Marcus, over my life experience and my journey in becoming whether you want to call it a better communicator or a bridge builder or just in my opinion, a better person, is the idea that people just want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to be accepted for who they are, and then they will open up and provide more about who they are. If you want to connect with your teens, your children, your coworkers, your boss, it's one of these things where if we challenge with aggression or challenge with and challenge, and when I say challenge, I mean just basically shut them down, or when they are speaking, we aren't actually listening to what they're saying. We're just listening with the intent to respond. Their ears are going to slam shut, and the same goes for kids. I mean, maybe more so, but it's wild how what is to you and I may be a very simple concept now. You know, there was a time for me, I know for a fact in my life experience, there was a time where all I was doing was waiting until I could jam in my point of view, and I really wasn't absorbing, accepting what somebody was saying. It didn't matter whether I agreed or not. I wasn't really feeling them. I wasn't seeing them for what they are saying. And this is what I think a lot of parents are challenged with today, is because, number one, the emotional wisdom, the emotional intelligence that it takes to do that is something that far too many adults don't have, let alone children who are trying to figure out themselves and who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a tough thing.
Two things come to mind. One is, if it's a skill, that means that it can be learned and built upon.
That's right.
Because, I mean, communication is a skill. And really, we're having a conversation about communication.
Yes.
The second thing is, to meet challenging conversations, we have to be at peace in here. Because if you're not at peace in here, everything is going to look like an attack, which means you're always going to be on guard. And if you're always on guard, you don't have energy to actually process thoughts and be attentive to make a contribution.
No, that's right.
And when I say at peace in here, that's inner soul searching work that you have to do. Some people might say integrity, but integrity means to be integrated. That means brought together. If you're the parent setting the tone, you will be dysregulated. And what that means, that's you will not be held to a schedule, and you will be thrown off kilter. When you're taking care of a newborn, when you have to love and provide for something that's fighting back at you.
Yes.
So that's why I say I work with a parent directly to help them put their oxygen mask on first, but to know that things aren't permanent necessarily. Things aren't personal. Things aren't pervasive. Those are the 3 P's of positive psychology. And I use those same things when I'm sitting across from a person who holds different beliefs from me. And when I say beliefs, different, even with people who try to argue with me, I've been in those situations where they throw an issue on the table thinking that I'm going to take the bite, and I'm just like, that's not me. And I'll let you have your moment. I'll let you rant. I'll let you do what you got to do. But because I'm at peace in here, I know you're not attacking me.
Sure.
And even if you were attacking me, it comes from stoicism. It's called the inner citadel. There's nothing that enters my eyes or my perception that I don't allow. Like I give it meaning as it enters into me.
Sure.
And I know I can respond to it how I want to. But because here is regulated, this is okay to be where it is. Like this can,
Right. No, that inner regulation, that whether you want to call it integrity or that inner regulation, or internal regulation or whatever. It goes to so much that I talk about it. I feel like all I do anymore is throw around the titles of books, but A Man's Search for Meaning,
yes,
by
Frankl,
Viktor
yeah.
Frankl. Our ability to choose our response, it's the one thing that nobody can take away from us, right?
Yep.
But in order to have that ability, you're right, we have to be full in here. We have to have this part intact. In order for us to have the strength to do that, we talked in the pre-show, Marcus, about people's preconceived notions, and
Sure.
then that, and what people think we are, based on their perception of what they believe we are going to be, before they've ever learned anything about us. And how often people, when they are encountered with that situation, it's almost like a trap that was, sometimes it's intentional, but way too often it's probably not intentional. But then when people are encountered with that, they respond in a completely wrong way. And it's because they are hurt in here. They aren't full inside themselves. They don't have that inner regulation, that emotional intelligence. It can be called so many different things. But now that preconceived notion that other person had now becomes a stain on us because we've reacted to it in the wrong way.
and then it all starts vibrating. And as I heard a comedian say, and then it all ends up in the Middle East. But anyways, no, I'm not going to say that.
Right.
But yeah. I was thinking about that with kids also is one reason kids do that, teenagers, preteens.
Yes.
Who is it? It's by Josh Shipp. He wrote a book, The Adult's Book for Those Who Raise Preteens, or something to that effect. It's an orange book. Anyways, he said, when you go on a roller coaster ride and they put that safety bar down on you, and then you rattle and you shake the safety bar because you want to make sure that it stays in place.
Mm-hmm.
So the role of an adult inside the community is to keep young people safe as they mature and grow. But teenagers do that to check to see if this person is a person I can trust and if they're safe.
Wow.
So like, I used to be a high school teacher. And
okay.
When a kid is like trying to poke you just to be like, let me see if I can get a rise out of him, or let me see if he's one of the safe adults.
Yeah.
But it's just like, why are you doing that? Like, I can only say that after, there were times when I was just like, what are you doing? But then, a little bit more introspection and gaining an understanding. It's just like, people are trying to get a rise out of you.
You begin to realize that's all it is. It's about the rise. It's about them trying to, figure out how far they can push you, where your buttons are. And then, if you react in the right way, that in itself is a valuable lesson for that particular person. is the way you're going to react, because they're going to be watching your reaction.
I was going to say one thing that can keep you, again, is, like we said, virtues and values. So I'm actually trying to virtue spot. I'm trying to see what's good inside you, because when I bring that into the conversation, people move towards your expectation. Mm-hmm. Even when they hold lower expectations for you, it's just like, no, and we can come back to this, right? But the first thing is people move towards your expectation, one. Then I know what's important now. So I know what my values are. I know what's important. So I'm not going to get caught up in that. Third thing is I know what I want. That's a creator question. What do you want? And if you know what you want, if that's not in alignment with it, everything else just falls away. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds easy, but it's a practice. And when you come back to this again, again, and again, what do I value? What virtues do I see? And then what do I want? I'm put in the creative position, not the victim position. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that, because, it makes me think, and I had heard somebody else say it a little bit different way, but it's very much the same thing. It's, who am I and what is it that I want? Once you know those two things, again, what are my virtues? What are my values? That's basically the who am I and what do I want? Once you are solid in those aspects of yourself, those interactions that you have, it becomes one of those things where it doesn't matter what that other person's preconceived notion is. I'm not going to let them rattle me, because whatever they are wanting me to do is going to be in contrast to who I am and what I want. So I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Now, mind you, it's worth noting that sometimes that what we want, we have to see, is it true or not? And I'll give you an example. People say, I want to be safe. That's a valid want. Mm-hmm. Sometimes safe people are saying, I want to be safe, so they use it as a reason to preemptively cause harm.
That is true. True.
So the things are to be safe, to be seen, i.e. worthy, to be secure, that is to have resources to take care of your well-being in life, and then to meet the needs of others, to be secure in the sense of community. So those are the human needs, right?
Yes.
Sometimes people in their narrative of their story, which is valid, I'm not going to say they're not valid, they will then create the story so that they do not act to the well-being of the society. And then that's where we have braver conversations. That's where we have more difficult nuanced conversations, which this is life. This is how we grow.
That's absolutely right. And then, and then that could go down a whole nother rabbit trail of just because, what the different nuances of the different things, the safe, the secure, the seen, what does that mean to you in your experience? What is that, and how does that look to you when it comes to whatever? But the reality is, when we think about all those same basic needs, right? That's what I think of when I think of humanity. We all want. In most respects, like I said, there's going to be very different nuances, but we all want very, very similar things out of this world. And in the time that we get to spend together on this rock, we're all fighting for the same basic things. And it's very difficult when we see those that are much better off than others, and some are suffering and some are doing well. But that's where, for me, it goes to this point where, we can talk through most things through these challenging and curious conversations, right? When we talk about people's different lived experience and how they see the world and how they see themselves and how we can better accommodate where they feel they're falling short, and we can't fix everything for everybody, but as long as we truly listen and see that person, that fills up a lot of that void for them.
Yep. To put it in a phrase, I say, make sure they hold their dignity in the conversation, and if they can't hold it, I will help hold it for them.
Yes.
Because in a very woo-woo sense, I believe you are me experiencing life from a different perspective. If I was born in your context of time and place, I would have made all the same decisions you made. That's why I approach this with no judgment.
That's nice.
But when I say make sure they hold their dignity, like if they can't hold it for themselves, like I'm bringing that energy in the conversation. Like you're worthy to be in this conversation. And that comes back to the Pygmalion effect. Again, what I mentioned before. People move towards our expectations. If I can give you two quick stories, just really quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Where this teacher came to a class, and it was two classes, and they said this class is lower achievers, this class is higher achievers. At the end of the semester, it proved itself right, when actually both classes were just neutral.
Wow.
People move towards your expectations.
People move towards your expectations.
And I'll tell you the explanation inside the second story. The second story is they went into a laboratory experiment. They had random rats there. Over some rats, they put dumb. Others, they put smart. They had the assistants come in and then run them through the maze. And the smart rats finished quicker than the dumb rats. Now, they put randomly the labels dumb and smart. Randomly. So how is it that they got 100% correct? They looked at the tape again, and they saw that the handlers, when they picked up the smart rats, they would treat them differently, and their heart rates would drop. So they were calmer as they ran through the maze. And for the dumb rats, they treated differently. So when I say people move towards your expectations, I say this as a teacher. I would always hold my students in high esteem, one, because even if they hold themselves in lower esteem, like they can't move towards it if I can't see it. When I enter into conversations, I've had people switch up on me in the middle of conversations because they know, oh no, he's not coming at me like that. Okay, hold on. Let me reassess how I'm approaching this conversation. And even if people don't want to meet me there, like I'm holding this for me. Like I want to navigate life in a better space. So yeah, I'm holding this for me and you. And if you don't want to meet me there, that's okay. I'm holding this for me then.
It's very wild. Very wild. No, that is absolutely awesome. That one.
You had an epiphany right there. I saw your eyes.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to put a lot more thought into that thing with the rats. I mean that is absolutely wild. But I mean the first thing that came to my mind was our unconscious bias, right? And I mean that's really what it was, and that's what it comes down to. And I always hear phrases, especially in the world in the circles that I run in, is unconscious bias and I've struggled with that one myself because I'm like unconscious bias is one of those buzzwords that people like to use to try and blame people for things that they really haven't done, but no, that is one of those things, Marcus, that we see and that is fascinating because while the handlers probably had no idea what they were actually doing, which they didn't, right? I mean, from based on the context of the experiment, how it actually changed and changed 100% of the results. So that's fascinating. Marcus, you and me will definitely have to have many, many more conversations. I have really enjoyed this. Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time today, but I've really enjoyed this. I think we've got a lot of room for a lot of collaboration and talks in the future. This has been just an incredible pleasure.
Boom. Feelings mutual. Thank you,
Marcus.
You.
Is there anything? Where can we direct the DTH listeners to go to find out more about you?
Sure. I hang out on LinkedIn. Not so much on other social medias. Not yet. I'm putting together a team to get over there. But MarcusHiggs.com. I am a communication coach for parents of preteens. I'm going to have some workshops up there, maybe by the time this is live. But LinkedIn is where you'll find me. And that's where I do my work. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's incredibly important work, and it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to so much more. Marcus Higgs, thank you so much for joining me on the D-Rate the 8 podcast.
It's been a pleasure, Will. Thank you.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the D-Rate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.